Hey guys, welcome to another video in this channel. Today we're going to continue with the Lighthouse. Final video before our special Christmas weekend, our portfolio review tomorrow and Sunday. And yeah, so let's get to it. That's the schedule so far. So, oh, by the way, I did read all of your comments about the ZBrush thing, and most of you, I think, are in a very similar mindset as I am. Like, if things don't change for the worse, then maybe we're okay, but we'll have to see, right? We'll have to see how things go. So last time we were here in the Lighthouse, we took a look at the, what's the word here? By the way, I've been like super tired this last couple of days, so I'm probably gonna blank out a little bit during this tutorial. So yeah, last time we saw the blend layer material, which is this special material that uses two inputs, in this case, a concrete input and a bricks input, and generates a blend between them using an alpha channel, which is just this texture. And we can do crazy things about the alpha channel. So for instance here, if you guys remember, we were multiplying these two alpha channels and creating this sort of like grunge zebra texture, which looks okay, right? Now it's time that we apply this to our own lighthouse. So let's jump onto the lighthouse scene, and I'm gonna be focusing on this main part of the lighthouse, this one right here. So if you remember, when we were modeling this thing, we created this like huge block right here, which is all made out of this sort of like concrete and brick wall. And we can see on the concept that there's a couple of holes and a couple of dirt and things like that, right? So the first thing I need to do is I need to extract these lines right here, which are wood beams from the elements, right? So I'm gonna isolate this object right here with this button. Let me, by the way, turn on the Karnak thing. And we did get a feedback that the buttons were a little bit too big. So if you guys are using Karnak, you can double click here, go into keyboard, and then the font size, I believe we can make this smaller. There we go. So that should be a little bit less intrusive, hopefully. There we go. So I'm gonna grab this guy again. Let's isolate this. And we don't need this cap, so I'm gonna grab this, Control F11 to select all of the faces and delete, just normal delete. And then we're gonna write vertex here, select the faces, and then delete. There we go. And now what I'm gonna do is I was gonna say go and do at the same time. I'm gonna grab all of the edge loops that create this sort of like wall section. So all of these edge loops, we're gonna select. By the way, this object won't be divided. Like, we're gonna keep it like super low poly, like you're seeing right here, because we really don't need to divide it. And we're gonna say mesh, or in the modeling tabs, we're gonna go mesh, and we're gonna say, edit mesh and separate or detach. Let's do detach. So now each like section that I selected is separated as a different object. So I'm gonna grab all of the wall objects, this one's right here, and I'm gonna say edit mesh, and now I'm gonna say extract. And what extract does, as the name might already be giving it away, it just extracts the objects. It creates an object per like island, and I don't want that, so I'm gonna just combine them all into a single one. So all of the concrete beams are in one single piece. Now let's do our UV trick. So I'm just gonna say UV. We're gonna do a planar mapping just to get like a basis here. These are cylinders, so it's just cap, and across. So I'm just gonna go UV, 3D cut, or let's go to the back, of course, so that we don't see the line. All the way here, there we go. And now I'm gonna go UV editor, grab everything here. Let's turn this off. Let's grab all UV shells and Control U. And there we go, Control L to lay them out. And that's pretty much it. Like, we really don't need anything else. If we want to be like super precise, we could straighten them out, because we're gonna be using bricks. And if at any point we see bricks going across all of the surface, it will be nice if everything is like completely like laid out. So you can go here into the transform options, and there's this one. Where is it? I think it's align and snap. No, arrange and layout. Where is it? There's a little option here. Here, unfold, and there's the straighten UV. So I'm just gonna select pretty much all the islands and hit straighten. And you're gonna see that now they're all completely straight. Control L again to flatten them out. And as you can see, we have a very nice laid out UV map for all of our elements. Now, let's grab these beams right here, because there's a little trick that I wanna show you. These are all gonna be wood beams, right? Like we agree there. And the easiest way, or one of the easiest way to create the proper UV layout, give me just 1 second. So, in order to facilitate the UV mapping of all of these things, I am gonna be cutting straight through each of the rings, okay? So I'm just gonna create a UV, new UV, planar mapping. Remember, when I do the planar mapping, I have this set to camera, keep image with high ratio, and then hit apply. So So now we have UVs everywhere, and we already have the inner sides cut, so that's gonna save us a little bit of time, right? So I am gonna go into edge loop. This might take a little while because I'm gonna have to go to each specific ring, and we're not gonna be able, I mean, we could try duplicating them, but since we created them from an extrusion, most of them might not be like exactly the same, right? Like they might be slightly different here and there in the scales. So the transfer of the UVs might not be precisely clean. So it's gonna be, even though it's gonna take a little, like a couple of minutes here, to just like select all of this edge loops. I believe there was a shortcut to select like an edge ring, but I think it would take probably like the same amount of time. So I'm just gonna select all of these guys right here. All of these guys, there we go. Almost there. There we go. I'm just gonna say UV. In this case, I'm just gonna say cut UV edges. So that should cut all of the UV edges into its own islands, right? So now, if we were to go UV editor and we just UV shield this and Control U to unfold and Control L, we're gonna have everything as it has to be. I need to take a call real quick. I'll be right back and we'll continue. Sorry about that. As you know, I normally try to record everything in one go, but every now and then we get some calls and some messages that I need to attend. So there we go. As I mentioned, we have this UVs, and the UVs are working nicely. As you can see here on the UV editor, they're all flat towards the grain of the wood. And if you remember, we already have a wood texture, which is this one right here. Now, the only problem is, as you can see, it's aligned to the different, to like a different like profile, right? So I'm gonna grab this guys. I'm gonna go UV editor, grab them all again. I'm gonna go into modify, layout, and in the options, I'm gonna change this shell pre-rotation from horizontal to vertical. Just hit apply, and there we go. Now all of my like elements here are going in the same direction. And I'm just gonna assign the exact same wood beams that we have right here. That's not the one. Let's check. It's wood beams new. Okay, so grab this guy, assign existing material, wood beams new. There we go. So now, as you can see, we have a very nice built wood beams for the whole thing. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take my whole little lighthouse thing. So I'm gonna just make a big selection box. Let's not use like the top part just yet because it's not finished. So let's just focus on like the rock part, the walls, and the, what's the word? And the beams. There we go. So let's just deselect everything that we don't want. Like this little guys right here, this guy over here, and this guy over here. There we go. So as you can see, we've got everything selected. There's a couple of things that are missing material, but that's fine. And since they all already have the materials that we need, like if I were to select this guy, or actually no, this one doesn't have a material, so I'm gonna assign a new material to this guy. Assign new material, just a Lambert, it's fine. And I'm gonna call this M Lighthouse. I'm just gonna say LH house. There we go. So that has a material, this has a material, rock wall, perfect, and all of this have the wood's beam. Now, I don't like this name, like always having like new or 01, 02, it becomes a little bit difficult to pinpoint what you want, right? So let me just deselect that guy. There we go. And so I'm gonna create a new name, and the easiest way is to go into the hypersheet here, and I'm just gonna go wood beams, and I'm just gonna rename this. Instead of wood beams new, let's call this wood beams fresh, so that they're like newer wood, right? I know that that's probably what I meant when I first did it, but I just want to keep it in a more easy to understand way. So as you can see, we have this pillar that's not exactly where it should be. So let's bring it back. There we go. Same for this one. Let's just bring it back a little bit. And here's where we're gonna be doing some crazy stuff. Actually, probably need to bring this guys down a little bit, and this one's, I'm gonna push them out. So I'm actually gonna take all of these elements into Substance Painter, and I'm gonna use the geometry to generate masks that would be impossible to use normally, but with the trick that we saw the last video, the blended materials, we're gonna be able to create something very cool. So I'm gonna say File, Export Selection, and I'm gonna export this, of course, in our Assets folder, Lighthouse. Let's create a new folder. We'll call this Lighthouse. Well, again, just LH main or tower. Let's just call it tower. There we go. So we're gonna export this, and we're gonna call this LH tower. There we go. So on support maps, that's fine. I don't really care about the maps right now because we're gonna be generating some new maps in here on Substance Painter. So yeah, when you export an object such as this one with multiple materials, Substance Painter will detect that each element or each different part of the object has a material, like a specific material, and it will create something that's called a material or texture set over here, which is very, very important. We're going to use it to our advantage. So here in the Lighthouse, let's go to the tower. We don't need UDIMs, just keep it like this. I am going to go 4K because I do want to have a lot of geometry or a lot of pixels to get like nice masks, because it's just masks. It's just going to be black and white masks that we're going to be using. And there we go. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, we had wood beams. Oh, that's weird. Did I forget to select a couple of them? I really don't care about the wood beams, to be honest, because I know that those ones are gonna work nicely. So I really just care about the lighthouse. So we're just gonna focus on this one, okay? So I'm gonna go here, and the first thing I need to do is I need to create the bakes. And again, here's where the magic's gonna happen, because I'm gonna be using a 4K bake to have like a very nice bake, and we're just gonna bake the material. And what's gonna happen is, especially when it gets to the ambient occlusion map, it will take the beams, as you can see, into consideration to create that mask. So we can see how this, how there's gonna be like a slight dirt. Look at that, like concave and convex shapes, exactly where we need them. So this will allow us to create some very nice texture presets here inside of Substance that we're gonna be able to use with our material layering system inside of Unreal. So just a quick show. We're not going to be using the bricks, like the textures that I'm going to be using here are not going to be the ones that we're going to be using later on. So I need a brick texture. I'm not sure if we have a brick texture over here. Do we? Huh, it seems like we don't. That's weird. Maybe there's like smart material? Do we have a smart material with bricks? Oh, that's a little bit of an oversight. We should have a bricks material at least. Okay, I mean, let me jump quickly into Substance Source and get one. Give me just 1 second here. Like again, I just need any kind of brick because we already have the brick textures. Remember, we got them from the what's the word, from the Polyhaven site, because I want to show you how to do this without needing any sort of external softwares. So in this case, I just need this for basic purposes, to oversee the general thing, right? So there we go. We just get this there. And as you can see, they're gonna tile very, very nicely on top of the whole thing. And even though I could like definitely go here into the options and increase the texture so that we match what we want. Like some of you might be like, well, why not just take this? Like maybe repeat this like, I don't know, 7 times. And this is gonna be my texture. Yeah, we can take this, but the problem is if we go really close, you're gonna start seeing this very low quality. And we know that we can get so much higher quality if we do the material blending. But we do need to have this one as a sort of base to know where we're gonna paint the concrete in and out, right? So this one right here, this concrete clean, I'm gonna use as my, actually let's use this one, concrete like dirty on top. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a black mask, right click, generator, and let's add like a dirt generator. And what's gonna happen here, especially if we increase the contrast, invert this thing, look at that. We're gonna get some like damage all across the elements, and it's following the map that we would normally have. Now, of course, this looks a little bit weird, so we're gonna have to kind of like tweak this thing around. There we go, that's a little bit more like it. And here's where the exercise comes into play, because we're gonna have to visualize that the black and like the places where this brick is going to be is where our final brick texture is going to be, and the places where we're seeing the concrete is where we're going to be seeing the concrete in our final result. So if I say this and I go, let's go back to Maya to see the reference, you can see that we have some pieces where things are really, really broken up, right? So I'm going to go here, right click, and I'm going to add a paint layer, and then I'm going to go into my brushes here, and I'm going to grab like this charcoal frame thing. You can do this with a Wacom tablet or with just like with your mouse, like any of them work. And what I can do is I can just start maybe something a little bit more harsh, like this dirt splash. I'm gonna make it harsher. There we go. And I'm gonna be able to manually, like artistically paint where I want this damage to be or not be. Like maybe I don't want as much damage over here, so I'm just gonna press X to go out of the painting mode and then just fill in a couple of the gaps, right? So all of these elements right here, all of this, and I know no, this is my main shot, right? So most of my attention should be on this particular area. So I remember there's like this big block like at this position right here. So let's create that little element right there. Perfect. And yeah, I mean, we can just play around and have fun. Oop. like knowing or placing a couple of like details here and there. You want to make it look natural, so more often than not you're gonna have this sort of damage in areas where you would expect like water or erosion to come into play. So yeah, just be mindful of where you want it and how much damage you want, because that's also gonna be important. And there we go. Like, this looks good to me. I think it's gonna look very nice inside of Unreal. So here's the trick. I'm gonna right-click this guy right here, and I'm gonna export the mask. Export mask to file. And this mask is what we're gonna be using. So let's go here to our Nexttut Live option, assets, Lighthouse, tower. We're gonna call this bricks mask. There we go. Now, another thing that we usually have is dirt, right? Like a little bit of rust in like the corners of stuff. And we can actually have multiple materials blending between each other. One thing that I did forget to mention when we were talking about the layer materials is they're very powerful, but they are expensive. So every time you have a blending material, there's going to be another draw call. Draw call is like the moment the engine takes to analyze each pixel on your image, right? On your render image. So if you have two textures, it's going to check each pixel twice, and then it will, depending on the setup of your material, choose which texture should be displayed. If you have 3 textures, it's going to check the pixel 3 times, and the more textures you have, the more complex it gets, right? So let's add just the black mask here. Let's add another generator. Let's do like a dirt generator. And in this one, I'm actually going to go a little bit crazy, so I'm going to go a little high here. I am going to use my trick, the one that well, it's not my trick, but it's the trick that I normally show you guys, which is the fill layer with the clouds or a noise modifier, and then we multiply this to break up the effect of the rust a little bit. Let's increase the balance here. There we go. So it kind of breaks this thing up. And I don't want to have as much on the top side. I want to have a little bit more rust like down here, because eventually this could be set to like an overlay, so the contrast gets a little bit nicer, right? So I'm going to add another generator, and this is going to be a let's do a position generator. And the position generator, as you can see, it's a gradient coming from top to bottom, and in this case it's white on top and black on the bottom, so that's why we're not seeing this portion. I'm going to invert this, and then if we modify the balance, we should be able to have this sort of effect. So we're going to have like a gradient down here and then not as much over here, and then this one, of course, we're going to multiply. That way we're going to have more rust, as you can see down here, and less rust on the top side here. So we're combining, like if we were to turn this off, you're going to see that we eliminate all of the rust up here. So the uppermost parts are not going to get as much damage. And then we're going to right click this guy, and we're going to export mask to file. And this is going to be called like dirt mask, LH, Lighthouse. There we go. So now we don't even need to export anything from Substance, because what we needed, it's already there. What we need to import here is the actual tower. So I'm gonna right click here. I'm gonna create a new tower, new folder. It's gonna be called LH tower. Just go there, right click, import to games. We're gonna go assets, Lighthouse tower, and we import this guy right here. Very important. We do want to combine the meshes, and we do want to create materials. So create new materials, and we just say import all. And what should happen here, we might get a couple of warnings. That's totally fine. Yeah, like texture name clash. Okay, yeah, that's fine. And we have this lighthouse, which we're going to be able to position here. We're going to zero out the rotations or the position here. So 0, 0, 0. And then this one was raised 500 units. So let's raise this one 500 units. I still don't know why this is happening, to be honest. And then we'll rotate this 90 degrees here, and that should match like the exact concept that we had. There we go. Now, as you can see, it's actually already loading a little bit of the wood there, but that's not what I'm interested about. It actually loaded most of the textures here, so we're going to talk about those later. Right now, I just want to talk about the lighthouse material. So if you remember from where we were doing our test here, we actually already have the wall setup, right? Like this wall setup here. We already have our lighthouse material. So I am just gonna, like, if I just drag and drop this one right here, you can see that the texture applies very nicely on top of the element. It's just a matter of going into this material and modifying the alpha channels here, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I actually don't need this multiply nodes. I am gonna go, let's move this in here to the not the wall setup. Let's go Lighthouse Tower here. Right click, import, and let's import the brick mask. Open, and we're just gonna drag and drop this here. And this is gonna be, well, wait a second. Let's make sure that this is not linearized. Is it linearized, or does it know that it's not linearized? Sometimes when you export, it already knows that it's not. Yeah, it's unlinearized. Perfect. So we just drag this here, and as you can see, we're gonna grab like the art channel. That's fine, and go into alpha. And now we're gonna have this very nice effect. And if we save, the material will update very nicely. And voila, we are gonna have our very nice thing as soon as it finishes compiling. Whew. So yeah, I mean, well, this is finishing. Remember, guys, tomorrow we have our portfolio review. Look at this beautiful thing. Nice, right? Very nice. I really like how it looks. It looks very like grungy. It looks very nice. And again, like compare the quality of the bricks right here, the quality of the pixels of the bricks right here, to what we would normally have or had if we use like a 4K texture. Like this is the pixel quality of using a 4K texture, which is not bad. I mean, it works, but this is the texture quality using a tileable texture with material blending. Now, the only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is the fact that the concrete looks a little bit too big on the texture side of things. You can see that we like the ground shear is way too much. So no problems. We just go to our wall setup, and if we go to the concrete wall, which is this one right here, remember we're using this. I'm just gonna right click, create a texture coordinates. Texture coordinate, there we go. And this gets plugged into the UVs of our element. All of them. And we can multiply this like, let's say 4 and 4. And there we go. We of course need to go to this one right here and compile again, because it needs to process the fact that we updated something here. Actually, we need to save this one right here first, and then save this one right here after. And there we go. Now, we're going to be doing something very interesting as we move forward with this project. It will take a while because, as I mentioned, next week we're going to have our like Christmas special week, and we're going to have to stop the Lighthouse for a couple of days, probably like 2 weeks, in like New Year and Christmas. But when we come back, I'm going to teach you how to create an instance material to utilize this Lighthouse walls for the other part of the process. But as you can see here, like this looks really good. Let's just fix the wood real quick because it's driving me crazy. So if we go here to the wood beams, what the hell is going on? Because it's like very dark, see that? So it already has a texture tiling there, which is fine, but I don't know why it's so dark. That's very weird, because the texture is fine. Huh, what could it be? What could it be? Oh no, it's using this, the wood fresh, right? Remember? So this is black and it's just using the normal maps, and that's why it's doing this sort of weird thing. So let's just plug this in. Let's delete this parameter, which is like the dark parameter, and bring this into the base color. There we go. So we save. And in Maya, now that I think about it, I remember that for Maya, something that we did is we changed the color slightly. Remember? We saturated the thing a little bit. So we can actually do this here very easily. It's called an HSV node. Yeah, RGB to HSV. Is this the one? No, it's not this one. What can we do? HSV. Hue shift. There we go. Hue shift. So we're gonna grab this one right here, I believe. And then can we change the hue? No, that's not it. Huh. Can't remember which one we used to do. Color correction. There we go. So let's see if there's like a saturation, because there we go. So we have saturate. So we just plug this into the saturate node, and then this goes in here. Now let's take a look. Like this node should be. No, I'll take a look at that one later on, guys, because we're running a little bit out of time. And I still need to check out. But yeah, we're going to change the wood here. But as you can see, we managed to hit this very important milestone, which is like starting to get like all of the materials in here. We still have a lot of work to do, but things are shaping up. As you can see, it's a process. As I mentioned before, like I'm doing this relatively fast. Like the project like this will be like 100 hours probably. We're gonna try to get it under 20 hours here on the YouTube channel. We're at video 19, 30 minutes each. So yeah, we're almost at 10 hours right now, which I think it's a great achievement to get here. So yeah, that's it, guys. I'll see you back tomorrow for the portfolio review. Remember, today you can still submit. So I'm gonna be recording late on Friday, or which is today. And if you still want to submit, make sure to hit the link real quick right now, and I'll get your work in this next portfolio review. Thank you very much, guys. I'll see you back tomorrow. Like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. Bye-bye.